Kashitakalo no mlumendo afumukulu hilo. Na muikala, amesha ya leisa.
Mukasimulia nyumuli ubuka.
Nga mwapema uli omwena, ifironda pa mukoshi.
Kwa nenga ndayo, ya iponesha kumenshi kile nivyo.
It has not even reached the maturity level, but it's gone.
Wote vya kulano, ndelo wope wa umwe finishweni mwewatu. Shukwete.
The day is 18th February 2025, when amateur videos showing brown water starts flooding social media. Little does anyone know that it is a 50 million litre capacity tailings dam at a Chinese-owned and run mine, Sino Metals Leach Zambia Limited, that has collapsed, leaving the content of acid and heavy metals flowing into the environment. Tailings dam are used as storage facilities of hazardous mine waste before it is neutralized, made safe and released into the environment. The effluent sees fish and other aquatic organisms dying off, and for some people, without knowing, the dead floating fish is like manna from heaven. The nation is then informed after experts, the mine and government confirm
that one of the mining companies operating on the copper belt has discharged pollutants into the environment.
This incident happened on the 18th of February, around 13 hours. As a company, Honorable Minister, we have taken full responsibility.
Stakeholders countrywide react to the news differently. From the capital, Lusaka, to Chambishi, Copperbelt Province, the center of the acid pollution, it takes one about 9 hours on the road. But from the central business district of Chambishi to the affected area, Kalusale, it takes about 15 minutes. And for easy access, a motorbike is the best option. This team thought it was the usual way they would use. Unknown to them, the disaster had struck, swept everything and cut off the roads. They just have to return. Kalusale is an area of small and large holding farming activities. All vegetation around here was very green, especially being in the rainy season. But after the mine accident, all the vegetation is burnt by the acid and instantly dries up as evident.
So this is Kalusale area where I am at, and of course, as you can see, all the fields around here are dried up. Most of these were just fresh maize. As you can see from the other side is green, but this particular part is dried up. The place is quite big. The water is coming from this other side and drawing down to the other side there. Everywhere where I'm stepping at, even just the trees around here, they're all gone. There is no sign of life around here because all the plants have dried up.
Locals have their account to this.
Ngaba pano pa nyumba kusanga ka maji yafika. Tuniambe kujala maji katondeka. Bweva ngena mapayadi pose pano vimaji. Vapitirira na kungena munda. Mpaka plasti wa munda kose vili kufika.
Ifutu aikede hapa, nshilinka nikalembalala hapa. Twaufile fe chundoku. futo ebola cha matipa lepita kashitakalo no mlumendo afumo kuluhilo na muikala amesha ya lesa na chamesha msangu shani abena mwesubesi baloleshe kwa chamesha afikola pakona efe twaishe pangalo luputapa panganda ti amesha ptile ko mumusebo kashitakalo na amesha dura no kudula yamba no kuptila mchiluputa mama amesha afuma kuisa chawe yafumina fe kumetozu kwa chikashe chunde chitwachila umfwati chile chunda mwachila umfwa imo kuno mwiko buhidu nombo oku amesha na yapita
tukutia ne importe ya menji na kuite tukutala muyuru netu akwa umvura muyuru mvura mosi with a short time menja na shiki acid twatachikiri kutemuka kupunda nyifolo ngana tiyatachi kuita acid kutachika kuingirira ingiri matara
ngana tinje nchelele nje nsekwire ko tuchilembo tonabyere kwisasange bala lyonse nalingira mu menshi awe nalilila na fenta mono kufenta nati mwe bantu pano mpererene mukalamba
ndifanza ngiri manje ukuni manje kumpanga kufanza ngiri so manje dina shipta manje kumisha ina asija
twatirianga chuma china kuiza china kupoma netu imvura kama imvura wanyi chinzi chuingira matara menjala chuingirire de matara yuma yeji maina kisanka ni tubaka tuyeji matuna kisanka ni tunayandi.
As the acid and heavy metal waste make their way down low areas, Kalusale being predominantly a farming area, crops of farmers are not spared. They are burnt and some buried.
Shilafika pako ya tinde ya mkulomba kubana nshiteili yonse awe nalilila bulanda bwanje kata mwanje ni pakusango tumata batonse na tuingira mumenshi imbalala shonse wanulima na shingira mumenshi chilemba afulima kulia shaingira mumenshi nomala fire fya kutitawe nalipona na nombo mtu taulaleka kutontonkanya afye na laika la shani
ine nalimine imbalala amataba nentoyo fyonse fyali onaika kekwena kuti yakumana 20 pin because nalilimine 5 kg ya vlanjira nalima na 2 lima ya mbalala.
Okay, I farmed groundnuts and that settlement was for me to see myself to go to college. Now at this point everything is swept away. I can't even do anything out of it. Even if I should bring a sample of my groundnuts, it's all rotten. I can't even do anything with it. And I'm back to square one, whereby I was seeing myself maybe selling the groundnuts to help myself, at least engage myself into something that is sensible. But now I can't even do anything. I'm stuck on this point.
Himbutu ya iwaina kashin 719 itwa dimini tare nungo chikala kumweka na kabaka keji makana akisankani keji makana akisankani tare nunga mwanchikala kumweka na kabaka keji ma
nadimi munachenyi ni inyimu yejima ina sukumi kabaka kejima tuyakita yejima kanomi nine wanezera kumona anamoni na meso awu after kuita menji 2 days ago kejima kana amani mapopokoni yejima wanulima yejima mapopokoni nina wanezera kutwitara kuno anamona na ina sukumi 2 days ago mbuti yejima chibwengira acid yejima ina amani tona kusukuma
na nilimyako 1 lima na hafu then vilinjirako one side vilingenako kumpepete huko vanjira but chingoma oro chiri green ngawachi watora chingoma kuti woche chingoma chikubaba chingoma ungarika vingoma oro viviri awe wachireka nani yuprika makwana wemu wake vingoma awe vilizizima vose vilizi vingoma so nasima yo ingano wanono awe.
Now where I'm standing here, you can see the maize this time. It has not even reached at the maturity level, but it's gone. It's not only the maize, as well a lot of relish which we grow here. We sell them in the market, in Chambeshi, Kitwe, where there is a big market like Nakadori. We even go as far as Chirirabombwe, the border, to sell them. Now here the impact is big. We have nothing to eat.
Unumwaka na tuwasala mba kuli desa tusumini shatu pya kwe fya kule fya kwa tivivi ne fya kule fya finsunga nga nalima fifino no mwaka fifino nga twasombola mpaka chumwaka ukesepwa nshalomba natasha nakunta masaka mbanabika nomba ifi cha chisike ifi neko nalaingirele nshikwete amataba ni 719 ona alimine so mukulanda pya kwandi mwa bantu shikwete pya kuchinda na vivi mwe bantu shikwete pya kulanda ndelo mwe ba ubwa frishwe mwe bantu shikwete pya kulanda awe shikwete pya kulanda ni chapo na mpuishe fini.
With 7 children and dependents under her care, Elizabeth Walia is found preparing some porridge for a hungry crying child from the mini meal given to the affected by the mine.
Apande ipikira abana tu porridge twakaibatsire ngalyako kukulirako achiramo mbone fe badwe ko tu porridge mbalesheko fensara penshupa sana mwine mo nsambirisi shabana emo ndisi shabana emo mbashitira ama uniform n'amabuku n'esapato romba fyawo naika ebarume nakwata pano shakwata abarume ababene ebarume nakwata.
The mine has offered the affected people a 25-kilogram bag of mealie, 2.5-liter container of cooking oil, 24 mineral water bottles, and a cash 500 kwacha for their subsistence. But Miss Walia, about 8 days later, says all that is almost finishing, and unfortunately, she cannot even think of picking a cob from the maize field because authorities have guided that no food from any of this field should be consumed.
Bano ndindi nabana 7 nomba nalabasunga shani nalabakwanisha shani akasaka kabunga batuforeshe kamu ole batira ati akeka kabunga rice twakabali atumuforesha hapo repu yalipya chibwabwa yalipya binzi yalipya mwaka batini ngafunisha mu mwaka batini ngasungira abana nomba nalachita shani.
How long will the 500 kwacha take them? So this will lead to food shortage in that area, and also it will increase on the rates of malnutrition because in the long term people have nothing to eat, and this will pose a great severe risk in terms of their nutrition aspect and their well-being.
Indeed, the nutritional value of these people has been affected, and with that being, their health is of great concern.
Chiresangwira kwakwati ngamwapema uli omwena ifironda pamukoshi so kwati neni nkwate ifironda pamukoshi then fena ngufe pansha panga mlenda tatukweta amajombo kusanga titule kwato bwafya kumakasa
so ngani pano peno po ndera ndaine nde mfano nkulu amolere mvo kwa chifunga na chifiria so na pene nde mvo apa ndevo kwa chamolifira kwa chareta la ko vevento apiti tulenya ntamulia ene amenshi nde ka ifi achitike to alisa pitamo no kupitamo twashire fusanga nchina vichitika nchiturefu makuchambishi
ngasomanje mule pia kali ni asijingo ndo munyi masi vicha masimanje ali ubuka kana ngwa ko hospital vicha genda tapo ngaji tapo hospital vinga kwa afa sitamanje utekwanje watu afu wako amajombo tufa manje amajombo vicha gena ameshaini ngasomanje kumini vicha gena mama vicha gena mwina mule mama kumule ubuka.
For the female gender, it is another story considering their critical genetic being.
Toilet, maybe you feel like vomiting. You can't vomit. Limbi wala sasa ngafati mwela. So twalisa sanga tabana kashi fwebe ngabana kashi twalisa lo alobulo ile fwa kwati ka like kuma private parts ngole ak toilet kule kalipa fidia painful urination. So twalisa lo ala nani kani period bonse nabashirwala.
Clearly, the health of humanity is affected here. Since Kalusale is predominantly a farming settlement, people here depend on water from the hand-dug wells for survival. And all these water sources are at risk, with others already affected. At this household, the owner tries to sprinkle some lime around the house with the hope of neutralizing the acid. However, the government, through Nkana Water and Sanitation Company, provided a water bowser where locals walk to draw some clean water for their daily needs. Eventually, the acid and heavy metals effluent find themselves in Mwambashi and Kafiwe rivers, posing not just a local threat in Chambishi, but a national one. The acidity levels in Kafiwe are now at pH 3, which is very dangerous.
Now with the pH of 3, that's very acidic. You know, it means that it obliterated quite a lot of aquatic life.
Nkana Water and Sanitation Company shuts down its pumps, and the country's second largest learning institution, the Copperbelt University, is shut down to save lives. Government gets consent and engages air, land and water interventions through the Zambia Air Force and other agencies in trying to reduce the impact and mitigate further pollution. Unfortunately, as of day 5, the water has already traversed over 200 kilometers. And on the way, a number of aquatic dependents are affected or found dead.
As quickly as 2 days from the spillage, there were fish, crocodiles, monitor lizards and frogs which were found floating in the Mwambashi stream. And you know the Mwambashi stream feeds into the Kafiwe River. The Kafiwe River, dead fish and a hippo were found floating in the Kafiwe River near Bulangelilo and the Pusukilo residential areas in Kitwe. That was on the 20th of February.
Reports that I've seen through colleagues and some samples that I've basically worked with, you know, you'd see a plethora of aquatic animals, including tortoise, you know. Some of my colleagues that went there reported that you know, crocodiles in the area actually had to swim out of the water from the acidic water, but for fish, they were unlucky not to, you know, live outside the water. So there was the massive die-off of fish. Those are the short-term impacts. Besides the massive die-off of fish, there is other aquatic organisms, right? That then disturb the whole ecology. So you have the planktons, you have you know, the algae and all these other organisms that live in water that cannot survive at a very low pH. So all those, you know, organisms died off.
Alex had more than 5,000 fingerings in the ponds, but they had all been infused with acid. So if 5,000 fingerings for one person can go to waste like that, think about the acid that had now dropped into our stream where we all drink from as a community. Because when the accident happened, not right there and then people were alerted, not right there and then people were told. We had situations where people were picking dead fish and eat it, thanking God for bringing it closer to them, not knowing the harmful contamination which was in that fish. We have today people in the hospitals nursing stomach aches and other things caused by the same fish they had eaten.
Wildlife and livestock are not spared in this, and stakeholders around the country are now concerned as the main affected river, Kafiwe, which is Zambia's longest inland water body, passes through Kafiwe National Park, the country's biggest park, which is likely to affect tourism and animals.
Twaisa mwana kufuteko. Nkoko shambo kufa wanu ishi 7. Shava passport.
It's really sad. That's all I can say. The communities have lost their livelihoods, the wildlife. We know we have a Kafiwe National Park, which is the biggest national park in this country. It's also in danger of this. So really I can say that the effects are going to be felt for a long time. Years from now, we're still going to grapple with the effects of this disaster.
So if you look at what has happened, it poses threats not only on public health and biodiversity, but violates, you know, environmental laws and principles such as the principle of precautionary principle and also what we call preventive principle, which mandates industry to be able to put in measures that are proactive to avoid such kind of situations from happening, rather than just waiting until it happens and then focus on managing the damage that has been caused.
She is now 70 years of age And this is the most painful moment of her life since she settled here in 1998.
Munda. 2 hectares. Mtima ukalipa. Ukalipa maningi. Sinienda mono kuyenda ma.
In this crisis, the mine and the government have been distributing lime to help neutralize the acid. And Miss Walia thought she could save her crops by sprinkling some lime in her fields. But alas, this has not worked. They have all withered. Acid is one dangerous commodity to soil.
First of all, we need to understand that the soil is a living thing, and there are enzymes, the life, that is in the soil through bacteria and others that are very much important in terms of nutrient, formation. Now, when that is altered, it means that you cannot experience the way it is with this health crop.
The hazardous waste has even hardened the soil around here.
Na shingira fi konkiri fi na fikosa na paku nukula 30 inchi tefi na fikosa mushiri na ukosa kumulandu wa fi ingire komone mabula ya mbalala ya fyonse na finuka na fikosa.
This one it is now withering, and you can see even the groundnuts here, they have changed the color, and this one, it has not yet reacted, but you can't eat.
Nomba tukati mamu chakanyi. Tunakenga uteku, mtutalishwe chwanyane, tunayandi. Chaka chukwa chetoka demakudi.
But I think it is not a one-day thing where we could see, farmers coming through and also planting, some crops. I think it will take a while, and to ensure that the experts, will be able to guide us to say this is the right time now. Farmers can go through.
From the land perspective, I don't think for a long time they can be able to grow anything there, because the land has become so acidic that there's no plant that can survive. So I think the demand for them to move to another place is good until that place is remediated, until it is restored.
It is double tragedy for this lady. She has not only lost her crops, but her house too has not been spared by the powerful current from the effluent, leaving it partially collapsed. The United Nations UN set Sustainable Development Goals on health, clean and safe water, environmental protection, among others, are all affected, and the victims' demand for justice certainly cannot be said to be too much.
Because my groundnuts add a lot. I plant a lot in my field, and now I can't even do anything out of my field. So I look forward for the compensation to be equal and actually to be acceptable to me also.
Agriculture vale penda amabala lima ingo kwete to alumbla malima kwete bakulemba na machine.
And they should be compensated justly. I'd like to believe there are formulas for this, but it has to be compensation that will ensure they can continue to maintain their livelihoods.
Looking at the accident from the Pilgrim until today, there is a history with these Chinese of not fully compensating people. And we have a situation where this has happened. Again, these farmers, eventually they will be forced to say, no, if you don't take this 2,000 kwacha, then take it or leave it. We have seen this happen before. And this is not what we are going to allow this time. As a community leader, I've given myself up to say each farmer this time is going to be considered on how much and how many bags of maize he was going to get at the end of the farming season.
Again, there's also a high chance that corruption can come in and some people may be unfairly compensated resulting from this disaster that has happened. So CSOs are raising the voices of those that cannot speak for themselves, and we are trying to hold the right people accountable.
We are also working with other CSOs to ensure that policies for environmental policies and food safety policies are being pushed, and to make them more stronger, just to advocate more for these people who are affected.
But what could be the best that these people can get?
What Chapter 1 would recommend is a comprehensive analysis of, firstly, what are the short, medium and long-term impacts of the acid spillage? Who does it affect directly? Who does it affect indirectly? And then work out a formula for compensating people differently according to what their needs might be. And we're especially concerned about, for instance, what are the long-term health impacts for people who rely on that water for drinking and so on.
So if a crocodile can die, I'm sure even a human being can die. So if we follow this closely, I'm sure there hasn't been a disclosure, but I'm sure that there are a number of human beings who have died maybe, or if not, their health has been affected. So in terms of compensation, you also look at it from that perspective, from the health perspective. So it's twofold: the livelihoods perspective, the health perspective. And there's a third dimension that I should bring in, that the environment itself, which has been devastated, has to be restored.
So I hope that the government will pressurize not only to do compensation for the people and all that, but also restoring the land that has been, contaminated with acid. And it may take long, but that would be the way to go, because if you leave it that way, it will continue affecting in further generations to come.
How strict are Zambian laws in dealing with such cases to make it fair for both the victims and the erring entity?
We have sufficient laws to protect our environment if they are implemented or enforced properly. What we're seeing now is a problem of enforcement, that the institutions that we have tasked with the job of looking after our environment or regulating these mines have failed us. They have failed. And if we look at the failure, maybe it's a capacity issue, or incompetence, or simply corruption.
Zambia, we have robust, environmental laws in Zambia under ZEMA, but I think the enforcement has been weak.
The problem, I think, is on our side, not paying attention to monitoring some of these Tailings Dam, to make sure that even before they are set up, environment impact assessment that is done must be assuring that where this company is going to put its Tailings Dam is compact enough to withstand any pressures that may happen.
Section 113 of the Mines and Mineral Development Act and also the Zambia Environmental Management Act, they provide a maximum penalty of 1 million penalty units for someone who pollutes the environment, like what has happened. And 1 million penalty units is 400,000 kwacha. So now I'm saying 400,000 kwacha doesn't even come close to compensating even just one farmer or even just one household. That's a joke.
However, there is room for improvement. There is room for strengthening the Environmental Management Agency. There is room for strengthening the Ministry of Mines and the departments responsible for overseeing and regulating how, or preventing, ensuring that such accidents don't happen. So we have a good foundation, but it can definitely be strengthened.
And as you can see, the overflow is still coming out and heading this direction. The trees and the sticks around, the grass, everything has dried up. With this serious and deadly disaster, what does the future look like?
Just come here on the ground and see yourself. Take the samples and check the land. We don't know if we can cultivate on this land.
So we really expect these people to pay according to how they have to pay.
We hold them accountable, either using the courts, advocacy, whichever mechanism we are going to use, but definitely those who have caused this catastrophe will be held to account. That I can promise.
ZEMA has been working and will continue working with various stakeholders in order for us to make sure that the next step we are undertaking in terms of environmental assessment is very comprehensive and will clearly inform the measures that will be needed to clean up, remediate, restore, and also undertake the appropriate compensation of the affected communities.